Hola a todos, seáis bienvenidos aquí a un nuevo videito en el canal. Hoy les traigo un jueguito bastante interesante. Momento, antes que empecemos, ¿puedo decir algo? Gracias por configurar la hora las dos veces que iniciaste el juego. Sí, ¿por qué? Porque ayer iba a empezar a jugar, pero el problema aquí fue que no tenía buen internet y ah, ok, pero tú te tomaste el tiempo para configurarlo y eso te lo agradezco. Ahora sé que esta experiencia es importante para ti, estás prestando atención. Ni siquiera tengo forma de saber si la hora que puse es la correcta. ¿Sabes algo? Hagamos un trato. Como cooperaste la próxima vez que inicies el juego y veas esta pantalla, pon tu hora favorita en el reloj. ¿Qué? Como cooperaste la próxima vez que inicies el juego y veas esta pantalla, pon tu hora favorita en el reloj. Adelante, elige la hora que quiera, aunque no sea la correcta, te lo ganaste. Y bien, ya te dejo que vuelvas algo. Oh my god, ese es un easter egg. Ok, pero ya sabes, suscríbete si no has suscrito, activa la campana de notificaciones para que no te pierdas de ningún video cuando lo suba. Y este juego me tiene muy buena pinta. Ayer que lo jugué, me estuvo gustando. Bueno, lo que medio jugué porque como dije tenía mal internet y no sabía que no estaba transmitiendo y eso me pasó con el Resident Evil 3. Ya ahorita lo tuve que subir, la partida normal, pero ya está al final. Pero es un problema, la verdad.
This is the story of a man named
Ok,
Stanley.
escuchamos historia.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427.
Bueno,
Employee number
básicamente el
427's
narrador
job was
es el que se
simple.
nos está hablando.
He sat at his desk in room
Él
427
controla
and
todo
he
lo que
pushed
hacemos y
buttons on
creo
the
que luego
keyboard.
se enoja algo así,
Orders
pero
came to him
primero
through a
vamos a
monitor on
obedecerle
his
en todo
desk,
y de ahí
telling him what
vamos a hacerlo
buttons to
enojar un poco,
push,
¿vale?
how
Eso
long
es
to
lo que
push
voy.
them, and in what order. This
No
is
sé
what
si me pueda
employee
escuchar algo
427
así,
did every
porque como
day
tengo
of
audífonos,
every
no sé
month
la verdad
of
cómo
every
influye en el
year.
juego.
And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And
En mi
Stanley
opinión personal el juego
was
se ve muy
happy.
bien, la verdad.
And
Gráfico,
then
bueno,
one day,
yo lo
something
estoy
very
viendo de acá, la
peculiar happened.
grabación,
Something
más
that
o
would
menos.
forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had
Sí, creo
arrived
que
on the
se ve bien
monitor for
también.
him to
Sí, se ve bien,
follow.
se ve bien.
No
O
one
sea,
had
no
showed
son
up to
los
give him
mejores gráficos
instructions, call a
que yo podría
meeting,
pues,
or even
jamás
say hi. Never in all
que
his
podría
years at the
elegir,
company
pero
had this happened.
son
This
aceptables,
complete
son aceptables, la verdad.
isolation. Something was very clearly wrong.
Sí,
Shocked,
se ve bien, se ve
frozen
bien,
solid,
se ve bien.
Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest
Ok,
time.
ahora sí ya podemos,
But as he came to his wits and
ponemos
regained his
atención.
senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of
Se
his
levantó de la
office.
silla, ok.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go
Ok.
to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Que regresara, digo, no, ya no alcanzé a leer.
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Ok. Está cerrado, continuamos. Es que pensé que había dicho leer una nota o algo así, pero ya no encontré nada. Ok. Cerrado.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors,
Cruzó
he
a la de
entered
su
the door
izquierda,
on his
ok.
left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a
Tampoco.
wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Ok, continuamos.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs
Podría ir
to his
abajo, pero...
boss's office.
Joder, jefe, ¿es en serio si esa es su oficina?
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him.
Acá hay
What he
para
could
un
not have
código.
known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845.
2845,
But of course,
okay.
Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck.
Pero si lo hay, lo buscaremos.
He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Okay. Qué oscuro, la verdad. Y peor es que no hay nadie, tan que... Ok, está cargando. No sé si hay así como otros finales o si en serio se haya enojado, pero si veo que no avanza, pues lo
Descending
terminaré.
deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Ok, continuamos por acá, seguimos el caminito.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Ok.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Ok. Para acá.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers, the lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Okay.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
Como que exagera mucho ese señor.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
My control. Oh.
Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's let's say, 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means. I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are. A moment of solace before you're obliterated. All right, you're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. Why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones, or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't. Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom. Es que no entiendo tu juego, no entiendo tu juego, no entiendo tu juego. ¿Qué quieres que haga? ¿Qué quieres que haga? ¿Qué quieres que haga? Ay, 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 está temblando todo. Está temblando todo. Tiembla todo. It's all the same to me, all part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say, happily ever after.
No, me morí épicamente. Me morí épicamente. Quien diga que no, está equivocado. Es que yo no voy a... ¿Sabes qué? Yo quise seguir tu juego. Tú me explotaste y yo no fui. Y ahora... mantente las consecuencias. Yo no voy a jugar contigo más. Yo no pienso jugar contigo más. ¿Me entendéis? O sea, no. Yo no.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
A mí me da igual.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Wow, este sitio es nuevo, nunca lo había.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt
Ay, yo
from the
pensé que no me podía
platform
caer,
and
pensé que
plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
yo pensé que podía sobrevivir, o sea, algo así, o había pared invisible, no que podía morirme. Es lo más estúpido que he hecho, pero continuamos. Vamos a continuar desde la parte. Ay, no puede ser, ¿por qué me tiré? ¿Por qué me tiré?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow, yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
No, yo quiero salir mi camino,
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Ok, continuamos.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her. This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself, to put your work aside, to let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
Ok, continuamos acá porque no hay otra entrada. No, no quiero. No quiero ir para allá. No quiero, la verdad que no quiero ir para allá. Ah, pero es que no hay otro lugar. Me lleva. What?
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this, to reach out to her.
¿Qué? ¿Qué? Joder.
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right.
No puedo ni avanzar, ¿no?
Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Gotcha.
Joder, mi creador, bro. Mi
Did you actually
creador.
think you had a loving
Es mi
wife
creador.
who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point
Fuck
here,
you,
Stanley.
fuck you, creador.
I'm trying to get you to see
Fuck
something.
you, jódete,
Come inside.
jódete.
Let me show you what's really going on here. Sorry,
No
but
quiero.
you're in my story
¿Qué?
now.
Me lleva.
This is a
Joder,
very
mi
sad
creador,
story
mi
about the
creador.
death of a man named Stanley. Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the
No me puedo ni mover,
inconsequential
no me puedo
nature
mover.
of his existence.
¿Qué pasa si no abrimos el círculo? ¿Qué pasa si no abrimos? Es que no. Joder,
Look at
no.
him there, pushing
A
buttons,
fuerza
doing
me
exactly
tengo que
what he's
presionar a
told to
fuerza.
do.
What?
Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might
Dejadme
even feel
salir.
sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life.
No, mira, no, yo no voy a presionar. Es que me
But in
lleva.
his mind, he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his
Que te
desk,
joda.
Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful. And each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him. and so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly.
Ok. Y se oprime para pasar tiempo con los chicos.
So, he went further. He imagined that he came to 2 open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold.
Yo creo que no. No quiero cenar.
As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby.
No puedo hacer nada.
And he called it the Stanley Parable. It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free.
Bro.
Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time. But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one.
Me importa un carajo.
And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it. You see? Can he just not hear me?
What?
How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself? I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
¿En serio? What?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Si hago lo que él no quiere.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was sublime, a work of art. What was it? But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you forgot. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance.
Ok.
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
No quiero.
Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door. I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the red door. All right, fine, go ahead, Stanley. You want to know so badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you. You see? There's nothing here. I haven't even finished building this section of the map because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. Broken rooms, exposed developer textures. Is this what you had wanted? Was it worth ruining the entire story I had written out specifically for you? Do you not think I put a lot of time into that? Because I did. And in the end, it was all for nothing. Because this is what you wanted to see. Help me here, Stanley. Help elucidate these strange and unknowable desires of yours. What would have made this game better? What did you want to see? Vehicles? Skill trees? Work with me. You've given me absolutely nothing so far. Tell you what. Let me take a stab in the dark at a new design, and you can give me some feedback. There we go. A third option. This already feels leaps ahead of where we were before. Go ahead, Stanley. Take it for a spin.
No entendí. ¿Y qué para ahora?
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Now, tell me about your experience with this new version. Would you say that the game benefited from allowing you more choices? Feel free to be honest. I'm looking for some real critical feedback here. A 1? I mean, I can understand if you had reservations, you saw ways the game could be improved to more fully express itself mechanically and artistically, but a 1? That's not even helpful. What am I supposed to do with that?
Bueno.
But I guess it isn't my place to judge. Here, based on the data from your previous playthrough, I've compiled a new version. And to be perfectly candid, I think I've knocked it out of the park with this one. Let's take a look.
Ah, por favor, cuéntanos tu experiencia. Ah, my. ¿Y aquí qué será?
Now, would you say that competitive leaderboard helped you feel motivated to keep walking through doors? Again, honest answers, please. Hey, I nearly forgot. I've got a prototype of a new game I've been working on, and now would be a lovely opportunity to give it some play testing. You wouldn't mind taking a look at it, would you? Perfect. Let me boot it up.
¿Es en serio que me mató? ¿Es en serio que me mató?
In this game,
What?
the baby crawls left towards danger. You click the button to move him back to the right, and if he reaches the fire, you fail. It's a very meaningful game, all about the desperation and tedium of endlessly confronting the demands of family life. I think the art world will really take notice. But of course, the message of the game only becomes clear once you've been playing it for about 4 hours. So why don't you give it 4 hours of play to make sure it's effective? Be sure to keep notes on your experience.
Mira, se va a quemar. Uy, se va a quemar. Ah, verá. Ah, que se queme, que se joda, no lo puedo sacar.
You heartless bastard. Did you do it because you hate babies or purely to spite me? Because if it's the latter, well, I don't know what to do. I'm completely out of ideas. I can't think of a single thing that might improve the experience for me. I'm not even going to try. I'm out, I'm done. It's over. Thank you for playing. Your input was extremely valuable. Oh, hey, since my game was so awful, why don't we play someone else's game? Just to ease the pain. Let's see. What do we have here? Yes, this seems like it'll work. Let's give it a shot.
Tus juegos son un asco. What?
Aha! Fascinating. What do you think this game is about, Stanley? What's our backstory? What is our motivation?
Este juego se me hace conocido.
Well, it seems obvious to me that you are meant to play as a creepy man spying on innocent civilians below you from up high in your creep tower, perhaps for some sort of twisted, erotic purpose. Yes, that must be it. What a fascinating venture into the experience of total mental depravity. So far, I love everything about this game, Stanley. And it seems there's even more. Come, let's venture outward and see what else is out there.
Igualito. Pero, no sé qué hacer. No sé qué hacer. Sí, tiene toda la temática. Joder, ¿por qué me va fallando? Me va muy lento. Me va con lag. Si miro hacia abajo me va con lag. Sí, un poco con lag. Y no sé por qué, no sé si es porque estoy transmitiendo.
Oh no, it can't be.
What? Me va con lag. Mira, su madre. Fuck. Y se supone que es de juego de consola.
It is. It's an open world game. Good God, quickly block it off. Oh, thank goodness, Stanley. What a close call. You
bueno,
really
gracias de todas maneras porque en realidad
that big open, just wandering around, no right or wrong directions, no path to follow. You can just go in any.
Eso sí se lo tengo que revisar un poco porque el juego se me
thank
está
heavens we
petando.
avoided
Me
it.
va con mucho lag.
We're out of the woods now, Stanley. Okay, I'm going to get us out of here. Let's find another game. Preferably
Sí, mejor.
something with walls.
Mira, en esta
Something
ocasión
with nice,
le voy a dar la
big,
razón porque este juego tiene un chingo de lag. No está bien optimizado.
Okay, I think this will be just the thing.
Bueno, por ese lado le doy la razón porque su juego es miércoles, en verdad. ¿Y eso qué?
Wonderful. See, this is
Rocket
exactly
League?
what I had
Rocket
in
League?
mind. Just a nice big box for you
Aguante,
to run around in.
sí,
There isn't
lo
any
que estoy
possibility
pensando.
that you could get lost here. Now this
¿Por qué
is
tiene
game
juegos el
design.
cabrón?
Stanley,
Es que el
if you
otro es
manage to
el
get
de
lost
que le
in
digo,
this
el de
game,
Home,
I will
Home
be
Alone, no se llama.
phenomenally
Juego de
impressed.
terror que cuenta historia. Pero es que el cabrón está en mis juegos o qué, es que los tengo, es que eso los
Okay, so
tengo.
what exactly do we do here? Let's see. There are lots of cars here in the back, but
Este
obviously
Rocket
there's no
League, este
racetrack.
Rocket League, no
Okay,
me van
I'm
a
seeing
engañar.
that there's a ball of some kind back here. Is this game sports ball? Stanley, I think it's sports ball. Oh, what fun. We shall
la
run the
pelota, pues?
bases
¿Y
and
los
do a
autos?
touchdown together. Yes, I think surely we must. Okay, Stanley,
Es que
here's
hasta
the
ahí mismo
ball.
le dice
Have
Rocket
fun.
League. ¿Pero qué le pasa? Ok, vamos a empezar. Joder. No, se va chueco.
Are you doing it? Are you winning? Is this fun? Is it better than my miserable little story that I worked so hard on?
Sí,
Stanley,
al
I have a
menos está mejor que
and
el
I
anterior,
realize
que
I'm
nada
not a
más puros palitos
sportsologist,
cuartos.
but if one ball generates a certain amount of raw adrenal pleasure, then surely multiple balls makes for an even more euphoric sports experience. Hold on.
¡No!
What are you doing?
Güey, me fui con el balón. ¿Qué pedo? Eso no me lo sabía. What?
Stanley, don't do that. I can't follow you there. I can't help you. How will you write a story without me? You can't do it. You know that.
¿Qué dice ahí? Debía haber explorado más, creo. Joder. What? Estoy perdido. ¿Qué? Bro. Como que vi a alguien ahí. Este también lo siento familiar este juego, pero no recuerdo qué. No, bueno, no sé si es un juego. Pero lo siento un poco familiar. En serio, donde venga como un creepy o un susto, en verdad me cago. 4:26. Que aquí. What? Pensé que podía ser algo acá, pero no. What?
I wonder what he found. If what he wanted was to be the leading man in his own story, well, perhaps he's gotten it. Down in wherever he is right now. I wonder if he's happy with his choice, and if he's learned the heavy cost that comes with it. He'll understand soon what I was trying to tell him. He needs me. Someone who will wrap everything up at the end, to make sense out of the chaos and the fear and the confusion. That's who I am. That is what I mean to this world. Oh, yes. Yes, I'll be back. There's no other way. Once this ends, after it all comes to a close, then I'll be back. The end will be here soon. Very soon. I can wait.
No sé qué hubiera pasado si no me hubiera aventado también el Rocket League, la verdad. No sé si hubiera, por ejemplo, más juegos, algo así. Me hubiera gustado jugar más. La mera verdad sí me hubiera encantado. O sea, es que no sé si eran juegos, o sea, ya predeterminados o juegos de la misma consola, porque estos juegos yo los tengo.
How wonderful. Stanley was alone. Finally. This is great, he thought to himself. This is what I've wanted all along. I got what I wanted. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Le voy a hacer caso por esta vez, nada más por esta vez.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Okay, no?
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that.
Okay.
And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished.
What?
His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming! He yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself? Believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself?
Y por cierto, ¿de qué me
Stanley
iba a
is as
agacharme en
awake
este juego? O
right
sea,
now as he's ever been in his life.
¿hacerme más lento o algo
Now,
así?
hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin,
Fuck, me
the
durmieron,
press of the mattress on his
durmieron.
back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my
Gente,
job.
me han dormido.
Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been.
No puedo hacer nada, así que
My
yo voy
life
ahí,
is
nada más
normal.
voy haciendo ruido.
I am normal.
Yo voy haciendo ruido, ¿no?
Everything will be fine. I am okay.
What?
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone,
Ay,
wake
cabrón,
me
me
up. My
espantó.
name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
¿Ah? Mejor yo decidir no
This
caminar
is the
porque...
story of a woman named Mariella.
¿Cómo que?
Mariella woke up on a day like any other.
¿Cómo que
She
Mariela
rose,
ahora
got
me
dressed,
cambió el
gathered
nombre
her
y de
belongings,
género?
and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man
Me
who had
mató el
stumbled through
cabrón.
town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although
Me
she would
mató. Es
soon
que ese
turn to
güey
go
es
call
un...
for an
es
ambulance,
un...
for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way,
Me daba
seeing this
curiosidad de
man
entrar
made
por la
her
otra
feel
puerta,
better.
pero...
But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for
Quiero ir
that
por la historia
day.
principal, la
The
verdad.
very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Y ya, eso es todo. Y luego me mandan al inicio. No me gustó. No me gustó esa parte. Nada más me mantuvieron en un maldito bucle ahí encerrado. Este juego sí va a estar larguísimo, la verdad. Porque... Bueno, si no pasa nada, lo recortaré y lo verán. Ya al final está la parte que sí resultó, ¿no? Lo que valió la... Bueno.
Good morning. Thank you for contacting the Future Happiness Foundation. We are confirming your shipment of 1,327 cardboard boxes to your place of work. Can you verify that this is correct?
Ok. What? ¿Ahora por qué no habla?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was
Nope.
not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Standing now in this incredible room, Stanley for the first, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Nope.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look,
Es que
Stanley,
sí,
I
es que
think
sí, si me
perhaps we've
tiro de muy
gotten off
lejos de
on the
acá, por
wrong
ejemplo, ahí
foot
sí me
here.
muero.
I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not.
O tal
I
vez no.
realize that investing your trust
Por
in
algo debe
someone
estar
else
abierto
can be
ahí.
difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing
Pero
but
yo no quiero
you
averiguarlo.
all this time. There's
No.
someone you've been... But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no
Ay,
one
me
gets to tell him
lleva,
what to
men,
do,
¿por qué?
Stanley
Me
left
lleva,
from the
me lleva,
platform
no,
and
salté
plunged to his
antes.
death. Good job, Stanley.
Estaba
Everyone thinks
midiendo
you
nada
are
más dónde
very
iba a saltar
powerful.
y solo se fue todo el maldito. Ay, Dios. ¿Qué miércoles? O sea, literalmente lo que estaba tratando de hacer yo era que tipo, o sea, llegar hacia la esquinita por así irme por esa para saltar y se fue completo. Se fue completo. Y eso sí no me lo esperaba.
The meeting room. Yes, that's where everyone would be. Stanley just needed to get to the meeting room, and from then on, he would never be alone ever again.
Ay, güey.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Stanley felt lightheaded, butterflies in his stomach, giddy in a way he had never known before. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Mira, voy a cruzar la puerta.
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find... Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his
No me
boss's
acuerdo de la
office.
contraseña, ya la verdad. What? ¿Por qué el... ¿Por qué qué? El boss, no. De dados. Espera, estoy traduciendo esta cosa porque no entiendo mucho. Dice, boss como jefe, ¿no? Boss es jefe, entonces dice, ¿por qué el jefe sabe que lo... que el jefe dice que se hace? ¿Por qué el jefe sabe lo que... O sea, porque dice, ¿por qué el jefe... El jefe dice se hace? Bueno, lo que el jefe dice se hace. Si el jefe sufre pérdida, entonces es lo que el jefe elige. What? Pues no hay nada más acá para hacer. What? Ok. Vamos a sacar, yo iba por la historia principal, pero creo que vamos a sacar otro. Y ya creo que con este ya por el momento terminamos. O sea, sí está buena la historia, pero hasta aquí lo dejaremos, la verdad. Está buena la música, espero que no tenga copyright. Ok. ¿Qué? No me llevó a ningún lado. Nada más siento que se mueve el control, pero no que esté bajando a alguna parte. Le voy a dar, miren, un minuto y si no hace nada, le vuelvo a apretar el botón. Estoy viendo los segundos porque acá lo puedo ver la transmisión, así que sí. Siento que está cantando el narrador. Sí, está cantando el narrador, a mí no me engaña. Ok. Pues nada, el elevador no iba a ninguna parte. Fuck.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
No les diga cada historia es diferente, la verdad, pero me está gustando.
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Ok, vamos por acá. Bajamos. Ok. Entramos por acá.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death. The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
¿Cuánto más falta? What? Este juego tiene muchos enigmas. ¿Sigo cayendo? Ok, ahí.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Carajo, no, por favor. No, bro.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Omnipotente. Me va a salvar.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish?
Creo que ese ya es el final.
When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same.
Sí,
Do you
este
see
es el
now?
final bueno, creo.
Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
¿Para dónde voy? Es que hay que ir salida, ¿no? No tengo ni idea para dónde ir, la verdad es que es muy grande. Es muy grande este lugar. Reloj en la oficina. Ok.
Then he pushed the number 4. Now
Toma
look
de la
closely,
versión
Stanley.
descartada.
See how it's
Que
impossible for the player to do
la voz del
anything in
narrador
this
grabó el
room.
diálogo de todo el juego
Perfect example
en
of
tres
all
momentos
level
diferentes a
design,
lo largo de los 2
textbook
años de
instead.
desarrollo. Aquí hay
It's the kind
tomas
of thing you'd
iniciales
pick
que no
up
se
on
iniciaron en el juego
intuitively if you
final.
had even the most fundamental understanding of good and bad game design.
Pues la mera verdad lo hubieran puesto en español porque yo no entiendo. Vamos a checar con una de las partes, es que es muy bueno la verdad. Oficina del jefe, imagen del desarrollo de la oficina del jefe. Este ya es la final. Este creo que era el juego beta, este sí lo jugué en su tiempo, pero no lo terminé completamente de jugar. Y ahora vamos acá arribita. Estos son los créditos más buenos que he visto, la verdad. Zona de guerra. En la primera etapa se diseñamos un juego final que está determinado en un campo de batalla luchando contra el alienígena. En el juego de acción cobraba conciencia y la declara. O a poco después. Dice. Además, ¿dónde era? Poco después de empezar a construirlo, nos dimos cuenta que era medio jocoso y literal para el tono del juego. Algunas personas interpretaron que nos burlamos de los amantes de los juegos de disparo. Es que creo que sí. Eso sí, como que ya no iba, ¿no? Iba muy de alienígena, algo así. O sea, no tenía sentido, básicamente. Joder, que no veo. Ah, hay un ángulo correcto. Guau. Pero sí me sorprendió mucho eso del juego abierto, eso sí. Me faltó creo que esa. El montacargas, creo. Wow. Sí, el final de la libertad. Es que hay mucho por explorar, la verdad. Hay demasiado. Y ahora sí ya. Ok, creo que ya eso es todo. Sí, eso ya es todo. Wow, pero mira todo eso. Es increíble, la verdad. Lo del trabajo que lo hicieron. Es increíble. Ok, y con eso llegamos a la parte final del juego. La mera verdad, muy bien hecho, la verdad. Me gustó. Y ahí estamos.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free.
Y ahí nos vamos con la parábola de Stanley. Creo que así es.
Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen.
Wow, está temblando.
But
Está
listen to me.
temblando.
You can still save these two. You can
¿Qué?
stop the program
¿Todavía?
before they both fail. Turn off
¿Qué?
your
¿No se había
PlayStation.
terminado ya?
There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you
¿No se había
move
terminado
forward,
ya?
you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you.
Carajo.
Don't let
¿Pero qué podía hacer? Estaba... Me lleva, al final me mataron. Al final me mataron los malditos. Al final me mataron. Y no me digas que voy a volver al inicio. Joder, no me digas eso. No. Tanto que me gustó. Me lleva. Pues bueno, pues si les gustó el video ya sabes,
All of
suscríbete
his
si no has
co-workers
suscrito.
were gone.
Activa la
What could it
campana de
mean?
notificaciones para que
Stanley
no te
decided
pierdas
to
de
go to
ningún
the
video
meeting
cuando lo
room.
suba.
Perhaps he had simply
Y
missed a
esto
memo.
vamos a dejar hasta aquí. La verdad, un juego que sí me gustó muchísimo. Y yo me despido y se me cuidan hasta la siguiente, por favor. Así que